Hello everyone, how are you? बहुत ही अच्छा response आ रहा है. There are 456 member right now. 456 member within 8 minutes. And
Right.
see Amit Arora ji joining us soon.
Hi everyone, and the wait is over. Amit Arora sir is here with us. Well, to give an introduction of his, he possesses over 2 decades of experience as a finance professional, combining media and entrepreneurship. He has served corporates and international voluntary sector as a C-band executive with expertise in business processes and bringing efficiency. Currently, he is working with Doordarshan and All India Radio as news anchor, radio jockey, and commentator. Isn't it very exciting to meet such a great personality? I feel that it's a great opportunity for all of us to interact with him. And well, talking about him, he has mentored over 50,000 professionals in financial management, media studies, and communication. And he was also conferred the Best Faculty Award by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in 2009. Well, he as a trainer, he has always helped the members of the team to develop their personality, business leadership, and overall life skills. And you must have heard him a lot many times on Doordarshan. He has done live commentary on Doordarshan for prestigious events like President Trump's visit from Ahmedabad, launch of Chandrayaan-2 from ISRO, opening of Kartarpur corridor in Punjab, and the budget session of Parliament. So we are all very excited to hear from you and to know your experiences and to gain so much knowledge from you. As in a personality like you in CA fraternity itself is a great wonder. So over to you. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, CS Sadhna ji, for that very kind introduction. Thank you very much. So, namaskaram everyone. I hope that I'm audible to everyone loud and clear.
Yes,
sir.
Okay. So, thank you everyone. Thank you, Gaurav ji. Thank you to the entire team. Thank you to the audience, wherever you are. Thank you so much for tuning in to this live webinar. The topic of today's discussion is leadership post COVID-19. And the way I plan to structure this session, we've got about an hour. I request the organizers to just buzz me a couple of minutes before they want me to conclude. I plan to segregate this in 3 basic parts. For the first 15-20 minutes, I will set the context to the topic leadership post COVID-19. And then the next part, with technology helping, we'll connect with Navdeep from the United States of America. He is an investor in insurance and financial services. And we'd like to pick his brains in terms of leadership from a global outlook perspective. And finally, in the third part, we'll have questions coming from you. So wherever you are, the rules of the game over the course of next 1 hour are very simple. That make sure it's interactive. Whatever your thoughts are, your questions, please ask. And being a journalist, the one skill that I believe I have is that I love asking questions. So let me begin by asking one. It's about 5 minutes beyond 8 p.m. this beautiful Sunday, late evening, 26th of April. If I were to ask you, if you look up in the sky, what do you see? अगर आप आसमान की तरफ देखते हैं अभी, तो आपको क्या दिखाई देता है? Can I request participants to just type in their answers? And it'll be interesting to see what they have to say. I give you a couple of minutes to respond. And in these 2 minutes, let me talk about COVID-19 first, because we are still in the midst of a pandemic. And we have seen that the World Health Organization declared WHO as a pandemic on the 11th of March. And the entire world, more so the affluent countries, whether the States or the European countries, they have suffered quite a lot because of the disease of COVID-19. India comparatively has done better. We haven't yet reached at stage 3, which is the community infection. And for us to ensure that the curve remains flattened, two things I would request everyone to follow. One is social distancing. This picture shows how children have understood. The question is, have we, the adults, also understood? So what looks like in coming days, the lockdown will see graded exit. And as economies open in India across the globe, it will never be a new normal. The threat of the pandemic still looms large, and therefore social distancing, even when lockdown is lifted, will be of utmost importance. And the second thing I request is that please make sure that we all wear masks. Try to help those who are vulnerable and needy, and do whatever best you can. Trust me, you can. There are a lot of resources each one of us has. And if only we realize that life is a beautiful gift and celebrate it, we're going to get there. So with the two things of social distancing and wearing mask request, let me come back to the question I had asked. So if you look at the replies, can someone share what a kind of replies we are getting to this question?
So most of the people say clouds, awareness, opportunities, hopes, and uncertainty as well. Well, this is a very different perspective of seeing it all together.
Yeah, that's right. So thank you for your replies. Usually if you were to ask this question to an audience, they will say we see the stars. But as incredible as it may sound, all the stars put together in the sky constitute not even 1% of what we get to see. An overwhelming 99% is just empty space, vast space. And therefore, the message I want to put across is that usually we end up only looking at what we are able to see physically, the stars. But a leader not only sees the stars, he also sees the space. So welcome to leadership. I think those who are saying they can see opportunities, that's a nice simile. Opportunities have always existed. They were there even before COVID, and even after this pandemic. Trust me, there are huge number of opportunities that await us. So we are going to talk about them, and you keep us posted with your questions. Let me quickly give you an overview based upon my experiences of life, what acronym LEADER will stand for. And to simplify things for all the viewers, I have this acronym LEADER, so that just on the lines of Vibgyor, we can understand this easily. So L is lead by example. Now, if you were to Google leadership, trust me, we will get all the quotes, all the sayings. There is no dearth of literature, but it is very essential that an effective leader demonstrates through his actions. And this is the time. COVID-19, it has not been easy. Trust me, if you ask anyone from A through Z to stay at home for a number of days, some people taking a cut in the salary, some without salary, it's not easy. But leaders lead with example. The smile still remains, and the opportunities that you were able to see while looking up in the sky still beckon each one of us. So wherever you are, at least smile. This is also a phase which will have its own set of challenges and opportunities, but the leader inside you has to understand that we have to lead by example. Now here, when we talk about leadership, it's very essential we understand that there are two aspects to it. One is leading yourself, and the other is leading a team. Before we discuss the nitty-gritties of leading the team, it is essential that we lead self. If I cannot lead myself, will I be an effective leader for others? So leading self is very essential. In a lockdown day, I'm not doing anything. I feel very guilty. Is this the right way? Trust me, if you are at your home doing nothing, but you're not venturing outside on the roads right now, I salute you. Anyone who's doing nothing right now, I salute you, because you are a soldier today. Soldier is not only the one who's standing at the border, but someone who is at home trying to implement lockdown in its true spirit, even if it means doing nothing at home, perfectly fine. This is the need of the hour. Inaction is the need of the hour at this stage. I am saying for a leader, it is very essential to be leading your life in a very blissful manner. Whatever be the situation of life, I will still lead in a blissful manner. So leadership has to be looked from the prism of two things. First and foremost, lead by example your own self. If only you are joyful and you consciously work on it, then only you can help any other person lead well as well. Second L, lay the plan. We know where we are. The leader knows where we want to go. So you lay the plan. Create the vision, create the mission. What is a vision? I am here. Now I want to travel to another destination. What is that vision? Where do I want to go is the vision. How will I reach my vision is the mission. But only creating vision and mission won't help. Once you've done that as a leader, it's essential that you communicate those with clarity to the team members, because every member of the team is also a leader. Everyone is a leader. You only tell me, are you the CEO of your life? Yes or no? If you are the CEO of your life, you are a leader. Therefore, don't think that when we talk about leadership, it is only about Prime Minister or Indian cricket captain or Indian football team or ABC. Every one of you, each one of you is the leader. I hope L of leader makes sense to majority of us. Let's come to the E. Now, making a plan is essential, but you need to execute that as well. These days, while in lockdown, many of us must have watched a lot of series on the online platforms. And people tell me that Money Heist has become very popular. Not that I want you to do any bank robbery, but still, if you look at the professor, did he not plan meticulously every possible thing? But then he also executed it. And while he executes, he fell in love. He had not planned that, but he fell in love with Raquel, the inspector in charge. I'm not saying you fall in love, but I'm saying execute the plan. Execution is very essential. You can fall in love as well. But while you're executing the plan, make sure that you evaluate for its efficiency too. But one important point that I want to mention in E is the environment. I think post-COVID-19, the new normal will be a world different than the previous normal. This is where the leaders have to understand that the working environment has to respect human resource development. Flexi working hours, digitally enabled environment is going to be the norm. I need not necessarily go to an office from 9 to 5, sit on a workstation, fill out a timesheet, do a biometric. If I want to go early, not possible. Do the golmaal kind of reasons that my father is not well, my wife is not well, I want an off. No, this will not work. You allow the employee to do whatever he or she wants. But once they are engaged joyfully in your office environment, they're going to be productive. And therefore, rather than whether somebody spent 8 hours or not, what have been the outcomes? Has that human resource been productive? Is something which was important in the past, but I think it will become critical for a leader in the post-COVID-19 scenario. A, appreciate. I know most of the CF fraternity is tuned right now, and auditing comes very natural to us. Auditing means we'll be able to finding gaps and faults, but we also need to appreciate whatever is right. A pat on the back can work wonders. It is not only about giving a raise. Trust me, if you appreciate and with a smile communicate that these 2 months have been difficult for my business, then the employees will be saying themselves, okay, we're happy taking a 10% cut or a 20% cut happily. The other A is accept challenges, because gone are those days when volatility used to be once in a year or twice in a year. These days, every day, we have one or two news which is volatile enough. Look at how the oil prices have come falling down. Who would have thought a couple of months back that the entire world will be in lockdown because of an invisible virus? These are challenges of the new world of the 21st century. And therefore, we need to accept challenges. And A also stands for adapt. Look at this photograph. It says Mahesh Jewelers. But COVID-19, if people do not want to buy jewelry, you go ahead with a provision store. Just maybe with a pinch of humor. But A for adaptation perhaps has more significant meaning than ever before. Let's come to D of leader, decision making. I'm sure many of us would agree. We're always confused to go with A or B. Decision making is very critical for a leader. And I would encourage parents who perhaps are our first leaders to encourage their child from small age to decide for themselves. Trust me, when we talk about leadership, it can be political leadership, spiritual leadership, religious leadership, business leadership. The first and foremost is parental leadership. Allow your child to decide. Right or wrong, decision making is very critical. And the second important aspect is delegate. A leader cannot do all by himself. Let me ask you another question. I told you I'm a journalist. What brings smile to my face is asking a question. So the question is, when is National Panchayati Raj Day celebrated? Rashtriya Panchayati Raj Divas kaun si tarikh ko manaya jata hai? I'll give you a minute so that you can respond to it. And if we are getting some answers, can I request people to just tell me if somebody's been able to write the date?
So 24th April.
Okay, and how many people have been able to answer that?
Almost all, sir.
Oh, wow, very nice. So that is really nice. Very good. I asked that because अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं कि समाज वैलेंटाइन डे का त्योहार कब मनाता है, तो शायद वो तारीख बहुत आसानी से समझ में आ जाए. लेकिन राष्ट्रीय पंचायती राज दिवस 24 अप्रैल हाल ही में मनाया गया है. So if you look at the 73rd amendment to the Indian Constitution that happened in 92-93, it talked about Panchayati Raj. Leadership does not necessarily mean only a leader at the center, only a leader at the state. Even the grassroots leaders are very important. And while the constitutional amendment happened in 92-93, and we were able to set up Panchayati Raj, the leaders of today, especially the business world, have to realize how much of a governance happens at the local level. So if in a vast country like India, 130 crore people, if we will not strengthen the Gram Panchayats, the basic functionaries at the grassroots, it is going to be very difficult to really become a developed economy. And I urge my CA fraternity that if you are a CA in the making or you've just become a CA, and I ask you how many of you would like to make a career in agriculture, I think not many would say yes. Majority of them would say we want to have a career in industry. But India is primarily an agrarian economy. So if 2/3 of our population resides in rural areas and a CA who's just qualified or with a couple of years of experience says no, only industry, it means you are shutting windows to the 2/3 opportunities of your career. Now, making a career in industry is fine, but are you consciously making a choice of not entering the rural population? And therefore, working with the Panchayati Raj, addressing the rural economy, I think will take greater importance post-COVID. We saw that one of the challenges India faced the moment lockdown was announced was the migrant worker population. And therefore, I think that some of them would have reflected during the lockdown and perhaps think that what's the point of traveling all the way to a city, whether Delhi or Mumbai or Kolkata? Can't they really work from their own district? Can't we have a district-led growth? Can't Gram Panchayats ensure that people in their villages stay there? We do food processing, something in agriculture. Agri-tech could well be an opportunity. So the farmers will ensure food for us, but they need help of the professionals to ensure that technology is leveraged, to ensure their produce is priced correctly, to ensure produce is stored properly, and in the entire supply chain, the food, before it gets rotten, reaches to the plate. So from farm to the plate in the entire supply chain, if you ask me, I see tremendous scope in post-COVID world, because food is something we all want. And please reflect, for those who come from affluent families, last 30, 40 days, we may have got stuck in our houses, but we perhaps would have not felt too much because we knew that the food was coming. Who's making the food? And making food for 130 crore in this country and 7 billion on planet Earth is a huge task. Agriculture is going to be one area that perhaps will get more focus. Migrant laborers may come down. They may start some small businesses in rural households itself. And this is where the business-minded people or the business acumen people need to help and contribute, develop small businesses. E-ethics. You know that 1st of July 2020, the moment that day comes, ICI will be coming up with the new volumes of ethical standards. Standards ensure trust. Standards ensure level playing field. And more than ever before, ethics are going to be important, more so in accounting and auditing fraternity. So the values of integrity, compassion, credibility, they will only have more premium to themselves post-COVID world. We have to become compassionate. We know how an invisible virus has been able to impact our lives. And therefore, we all, particularly the leaders, have to embrace what is known as a minimalist lifestyle. If you have seen a lot of series online during this lockdown, I request you to go to, I think it is on Netflix, and watch this movie which is called Minimalism. And you would know more about minimalist lifestyle, the essence of which is less is more. Less is more. See how during this lockdown, we have survived. Not that without the pizzas and the burgers and the colas and this and that, we cannot survive without going to a mall. So minimalist lifestyle will no longer be an option. I think it'll be more of a norm from here on. And I'll be very happy, especially in the leadership roles. Post-COVID, people talk more about minimalist lifestyle. And finally, respect diversity. The leaders and particularly the hierarchy is all going to be diluted. And you will have somebody as a leader, but you will still have a strong team around him or her. That person may not necessarily agree with the leader. You may still have adversaries. You have to respect diversity. You also have to ensure some kind of consensus comes out of it. You have to respect the opposition. And therefore, finally, R is responsibility, because once you've been named as a leader, you cannot just quit. Resignation is not a solution. It is very easy to resign. I quit. But stay strong. Somebody says something wrong to you. You feel anxious. You feel disheartened. It will happen. In the life of a leader, be prepared to face an array of emotions. But whether it is joy or pain, whether it is happiness or unhappiness, whatever it is you who are feeling that. And therefore, again, I come back to that self part. Extraneous circumstances, not in my hands. This will be an interplay of various factors. But what happens to me and how do I respond to a situation is 100% in my hands. And therefore, if you have chosen the responsibility of leadership, then please respond. Don't react. Situation outside can be anything. If you react, it will always be an impulsive reaction. But if you respond, it will be a conscious response. So let me put a stop button there. At this juncture, can I invite special guest joining us from Dallas, Texas, USA, Navdeep Arora. Navdeep.
Hello, Amit. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Morning.
Hi, it's a good morning there in States and it's a late evening here in India. So am I audible to you loud and clear?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us from America to tell our audiences a bit about Navdeep. He is an active advisor and investor in insurance and financial services sector. He's been a former senior partner at Mckinsey and Company for close to 16 years. He served there, done MBA from the prestigious Harvard University, and there's much more to his life and journey, which you can check at the website and all of these coordinates. Pleasure having you, Navdeep, with us. First and foremost, since we're talking about leadership post-COVID-19, but we are still in the midst of a pandemic, I want to ask you, how's the situation in America now, and particularly in Dallas, where you are based at?
The situation in the US is actually quite dire. And I think the leadership response in this country has been mediocre as best. And that makes me appreciate what the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has done. And so as compared to India, where I believe all of you have brilliantly, proactively staged a very pragmatic response to COVID. I think the US's response has been rather reactive. And as a result, as you can see, we already have about 35,000 deaths. Most of the COVID situation is concentrated on the eastern coast, around New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. And as you move west, the impact starts to lessen. So in Dallas, I think it is certainly an issue, but not as severe as New York.
Right.
It is deeply concerning, and just like all of you, I have been locked down in my flat for the last 4 weeks now.
Right. Well, thank you very much for sharing your views there. Our prayers and best wishes for people in the US and wherever they are in the world to stay safe. And I'm sure we'll all together come out of this. But we're talking about leadership post-COVID-19. So, Navdeep, what are your thoughts on leadership post the pandemic world?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And to understand, the challenges for leadership post-COVID, I've sort of traced back the steps into the history, and I try to understand what happened back in 1918 after the global flu pandemic, and what happened after the Great Depression. And the lessons learned are actually quite insightful. So the global flu pandemic of 1918 led to the creation of national health services across about 50 different countries globally. The Great Depression basically, in my opinion, laid the foundation for the modern welfare state. So massive structural and socioeconomic changes resulted from similar previous incidences. So you think about what's going to happen now, right? I think clearly unemployment. The US, for example, has filed 26 million cases of unemployment and basically wiped out all the economic gains of the last 11 years in the last 3 months. I think that will worsen actually and continue, especially in countries, we know, without naming names, we know that there are several countries that have sacrificed human lives in the interest of economics. And India, fortunately, has done a brilliant job and actually, said we value human lives. So I think we will continue to see more unemployment. We will continue to see a further deterioration of consumer confidence. People will try to hoard money. We will see what I call short-termism, where governments will retrench back from globalization and try to become more and more self-dependent. There would be reduction in foreign trade. So I think those are what I call the short-term impacts. The question now becomes, what do we do? What do we do as leaders? And I think three things jump at me. Again, going back to history and seeing how the world recovered. I think the first lesson for me is, I think we'll have to learn to balance humanity with the economy. We'll have to remember that in these times, our most valuable resource is human capital. And we'll have to find ways not to cut jobs, not to lay off our most valuable resources, and find ways to make them more productive, repurpose them in the new economy. Number one. Number two, I think we're going to see a massive change in how we work, a massive change in how we use infrastructure, a massive change in the type of products and services we use, and that will create an entirely new set of opportunities. I think at the surface, if we just scratch the surface, it looks like it's doom and gloom. But when you peel the onion down 2 layers, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a set of brilliant new opportunities that are going to face us in the new world. I'll give you an example. I'm an investor in several technology-related companies in the insurance sector. So 3 months ago, the response was very negative, and there was doom and gloom. And it was like, oh, how are we going to get through this period? We are running out of our funds. And then suddenly a month ago, they realized that demand for simple health and life insurance products in Southeast Asia has actually shot up by 65%. That demand from their customers, who are large insurance companies, for digital solutions, for remote claims, for instance, for remote selling products directly on your mobile, has actually gone through the roof. So I think that's the second challenge for leadership, which is look on the bright side, peel the onion, and think about how we make ourselves relevant in the new world, in the new economy. The third challenge I see is, I think all of us are going to face a lot of pressures, and especially, a lot of the folks on the webinar, I'm assuming there are lots of chartered accountants and finance professionals. I think I've seen that even in the past, during these times, there is a lot of financial pressure to show results in the short time. And that often results in cutting corners, in incidences of professional misconduct. And therefore, for professionals like yourselves to ensure that organizations are in compliance, they're following regulations, and not creating or not exposing the organization to large reputational issues. So those are the three challenges. Again, number one, balancing human lives with the economy and really making sure that we are protecting our human capital. Number two, peeling the onion down and looking for new opportunities. Number three, not letting short-termism and the notion of sunk cost destroy us, right? and make sure that we are not cutting any corners and staying in compliance so that professional misconduct does not lead to reputation losses.
Yeah, Navdeep, I think that's a very candid assessment of the present situation of COVID. So it's very essential for our audiences to understand that if you look at the superficial level, yes, it may appear at the first sight that it's all gloomy and it's very difficult. But when you peel the onion, you realize that there will be newer opportunities. So as Navdeep mentions, that specifically if you look at the financial services, there has been almost a surge, demand up by about 65%. Navdeep, I'm sure many of the audiences who are tuned wherever they are across the globe would like to know more sectors where perhaps opportunities can come in the post-COVID scenario. In my opinion, I thought agriculture is going to be one because food is something that we all want on our table and it has to be nutritive food. So professionals may have more distinct role in the primary economy. You talk about insurance and financial services. Could you lay more opportunities for us? Could you peel more layers of onion so that we can dispel this gloom and with a smile get ready for the post-COVID world?
Yes, so I think the sectors that I believe are poised for massive opportunities. I think number one, clearly agriculture. I think new ways to change the agricultural supply chain and deliver food in ways that are not susceptible to the type of pandemic we are facing. I think the agriculture sector is going to go through a massive transformation of the supply chain. Secondly, as I mentioned, insurance and financial services. I think the use of direct channels, not only for buying products, but for settling all types of issues like claims online and being able to deliver policies on demand, flexible policies, I think is going to shoot through the roof. So the entire space of what we call today fintech and insurtech, I think we expect that the capital inflow or investments into that space will continue to mushroom as it has in the last 5 years. The third area is healthcare. I think the growth of telehealth, the growth of being able to provide healthcare remotely and in safe ways, new research into pharmacology, new research into genetics, I think is going to see a massive lift. The fourth area where I believe once we peel the onion, we will realize new opportunities is going to be distribution, manufacturing and distribution of retail products. If you can look at the last 3 or 4 months, I think whilst our needs have been met, you can imagine that inventories of retail goods are slowly depleting. And as the economy revives, I think there'll be a massive effort to uptick manufacturing and replace those inventories. So I think those are the 4 areas: agriculture, insurance, financial services, healthcare, and then manufacturing, especially local retail related manufacturing that will see new opportunities in the space. And then the fifth one, that everybody's talking about is the way we work or the nature of work. How we, the infrastructure that we have used for ages to work, all of that is now poised for massive transformation and will create new opportunities.
Brilliant. I think for those who are tuned in, let me quickly recap it for everyone. So post-COVID world, our assessment, top 5 industries that perhaps will see a surge in demand. 1, the basic necessity of food. So agricultural supply chain, new ways of delivering food, ensuring that not only we have food, it is nutritious, how we ensure easy access from farm to the plate. The second one is fintech and insurtech. Usually one talks about fintech, which is financial technology. Insurtech is a sister that is not talked about much, but maybe with the risk management and risk assessment high on the radars of leadership now, insurtech could also be occupying bigger space in India. The third, as Navdeep mentions, could well be healthcare. Like he mentioned, when the flu happened in history, national health services were set up across countries. And therefore, if you look at Indian system, we perhaps could strengthen all layers, primary healthcare, secondary and the tertiary. It may not be out of place to mention that just a fortnight back, Navdeep, the Indian Medical Association made a very important change, and medicine has been given authenticity. Now, the non-COVID patients, so that they had no problem, they could consulted their doctors via telephone, and digital prescription also has legal validity. This happened just 2 weeks back with the amendment of the legislation here in India. So like I mentioned, telemedicine could well be an area using of digital technology, research into genetics. See, we are still trying to figure out this novel coronavirus. What is the novelty? It has a shape of the crown, but see, could it mutate itself? Could we see another phase of COVID-19 later in the year? So therefore, all the young minds, this is where we could really have sources of funds, efficient utilization, and support our scientific communities. The fourth one, as Navdeep mentions, the local retail related manufacturing. That's the fourth one. And Navdeep, help me recall the fifth one that you mentioned.
Infrastructure, how we work.
Right, how we work, because this ties up to the second challenge that he had mentioned. And like I was trying to also mention that the working environment would see a sea change. No need for the employee to come at 9. No need to mark his half day off if he comes 10 minutes late. I think we have to just get rid of this thing. Let him work wherever he works from the workstation, but make sure that he is joyfully, passionately driven to do work. And that is the role of the leadership. Then only he or she will be more productive. Now, there's a question that we have, Navdeep. So it says, do you think telecom is the most unaffected sector due to COVID-19?
Telecom is the most, I think, I do not believe that it is the most unaffected sector. In fact, there are parts of the world that have not been able to keep up with the demands on telecom during the COVID times. I've spoken to several friends in other parts of the world. I'll give you an example: Philippines, Thailand, where people have been completely shut out of the outside world because their Wi-Fi systems, their telecom systems were down. So I think this will, I do not believe that telecom will remain unimpacted. I do believe that new capabilities, the move into 5G and new bandwidths will strengthen telecom going into the future, because the new way we work, the notion of virtual work, will put greater demands on telecommunications. So it has not been unaffected.
Absolutely. And when I was in Ahmedabad in February covering President Trump's visit, then in his delegation was also a part where there were exchanges between the two nations on 5G technology. So when we were talking about a new working environment post-COVID, and with people working primarily through technology, like right now we have the Zoom, 5G, the speed would be very fast. With
That's right.
The speed would be very fast, and we can reach out to every nook and corner of the rural hinterlands also. So telecom is going to be an interesting proposition. Another question, Navdeep, that has come from Sachin Jindal. He says, I think automobile will be a bet because people will avoid public transport. Now, given the fact that we are still advocating social distancing and wearing masks, do you think people may avoid public transport, going into metros, and perhaps that could give a push to the automobile sector?
I think it's a very interesting insight. Here's my opinion. I think I take a 20,000 feet view of this, and you think about economic recovery, and sometimes you have instances where economic recovery is a V shape. It plummets and then it goes up. I think we're going to see a rather flattened U curve where we will remain at the bottom for about 12 to 18 months before we start to recover. And during that period, I think Sachin's comment is spot on, that people will avoid public transport, especially in a lot of the European countries that have large mass transit systems.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of more reactions, Navdeep. Tarun Mittal says, I wish that people use more of cycles and e-vehicles. Deepak Gupta says, in automobile, perhaps it'll be either two-wheeler market or second-hand car market, which may see boom after COVID. But
I think for the next 18 to 24 months, that is absolutely a great insight, and I do agree with them. I think at the same time we should remember that this opportunity will not remain for very long, perhaps for 2 to 3 years, because at the same time the notion of autonomous cars, this notion of autonomous cars is also gaining a ton of traction. I was in San Francisco a month ago, or sorry, about not a month, 2 months ago, before they locked down for COVID, and I was in an Uber, and right next to me, I saw a self-driven car. Driver. So I think eventually technology will take over and solve that issue. But for the next 2 or 3 years, I absolutely see the opportunity in bicycles, in two-wheelers, and in second-hand cars. I think that's a very good point. I'll give you another interesting example. Have you heard of a company called Weight Watchers?
yes.
So Weight Watchers stock is going through the roof over the last month. And you can imagine why, right? Because people
Yes.
are sitting at home and eating, right?
Mhm.
So I think there are some, some short-term effects that can create financial opportunities. Absolutely.
So on the technology part, Navdeep, I did read a recent article of yours on emerging technologies.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we are apprehensive of technology. And now that we've been digitally pushed via lockdown, that many people would have perhaps for the first time have some Zoom meeting, or they're understanding Microsoft Teams and things like that. What are the emerging technologies that you feel we all should, as business leaders, now start to have a better understanding of?
So I think that's a great question, Amit. I've been, I'm actually currently working on my PhD in innovation, and digging into that very topic deeply. I think there is a technology in the offing that everybody talks about. It's called quantum computing, which, to be very practical, is at least about 10 to 15 years away from being commercially available. But there are several precursors to quantum computing that we have to start embracing now, because if we do not, we will get wiped out when quantum computing hits us. And those technologies are, first is very simple, the entire notion of digitization. If our business is not digitized, now I'm not saying digital, there's a difference between digital. When people talk about digital, they I think they imagine, oh, do we have a website, right? Digitization, on the other hand, means your entire business process, everything you do is has been digitized. Once it has been digitized, it enables you to use artificial intelligence and machine learning much more effectively once you have data, right? So first is digitization, second is artificial intelligence and machine learning, and the third technology that is going to be critically important in the remote virtual work environment is going to be blockchain. You know, which is, you know, going to be central to the notion of privacy, you know, purchasing contracts, payments. So I would say those are the three pieces to the puzzle that we need to deeply embed into our businesses as leaders: digitization, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and blockchain technologies. And I mean, of course, there are virtual reality and many other things, but I think those are the three foundation level things that we have to get our arms around.
Absolutely. So many questions are coming, but we also have constraints on time. But I would like to ask you this question, that since you are an investor, if a business leader today does a balance between ecology and economy, bringing in environmental factors, would you as an investor value that organization? Because as chartered accountants and finance professionals, we talk about profit maximization, wealth maximization, but when we prepare P&L and balance sheet, there is the money measurement concept. So if the organization that does put a premium on ecology ahead of economy, would an investor like you value that organization more going forward?
So I think that's a very deep question, and let me just give you a little background. So my answer to that is, let me first answer your question directly. So my answer to your question is, will I, as an investor, will I value a company that emphasizes ecology? My answer would be yes, absolutely yes, as long as that connection to ecology is anchored in the financial realities. And the reason I say that is, perhaps if you had asked me that question 5 years ago, I probably would have given you a different answer, or I would have shied away from saying a resolute yes. Today, ecology has become an economic reality. I think we have hit the tipping point where, without focusing on ecology, a business cannot survive very long. About 6 months ago, there was a conference held in New York City. It was led by Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. The conference basically debated, there was a point of debate in front of the conference. The debate was, is a public company solely responsible to its shareholders who have put money into the company, or is a public company responsible to a spectrum of stakeholders that include employees, customers, climate, environment, et cetera, and this group of 45 or 50 global companies came to consensus that they believe, moving forward, not focusing on those stakeholders will not be economically feasible. So I think in short, we have hit the tipping point where ecology is integrally linked with economy, and as an investor, I have to focus on that equally, and I do.
That's a very valuable answer that you've given. One more question. I had mentioned about minimalistic lifestyle for leadership post-COVID. where less is more. So we have a question from Vaibhav Jain, and Vaibhav asks, do you think more adoption of minimalistic lifestyle would have an adverse impact on economy?
I think I think that's a very deep, very philosophical question, and a great question. In fact, very thoughtful question. My view is that I think minimalism is a mindset. I think minimalism is about how we run our lives, how we run our businesses, and the notion of minimalism is basically taking waste out of our lives, taking waste out of our businesses, taking non-value added work, non-value added activities out of our lives and work. And it's to me, minimalism is what a lot of people call the lean mindset. And I believe minimalism, in fact, creates abundance. So an abundance is good for the economy. It's good for our society. So that's my opinion.
Wow, that's very profound. Minimalism creates abundance. Excellent. What about the banking sector post-COVID? A lot of people are asking that question. Banking sector.
Yeah, so the banking sector. I think in a way, especially when I look at the US economy and the European economies, I think these economies, especially the financial services markets, were overly inflated. As you know, the Dow had crossed 30,000, and there was too much capital chasing too few opportunities, which meant that the bubble was going to burst sooner or later. And I think COVID provided that pinpoint and that needle point, and it burst the bubble maybe 6 to 9 months early. So I think the banking sector, I think will face further cuts in the amount of capital they have. I think the returns on investment, I think a lot of people will go back to savings. I think there will be the lack of consumer confidence will significantly cut or lower investments in short-term or even medium-term equities. So as a result, I think you can expect T-bill rates and bonds and CDs coming back over the next couple of years. But I do not see this depression or recession lasting more than 18 to 24 months, and things should recover by then. But yes, there will be some banks that I believe will collapse as a result of COVID.
One last question, Navdeep. Hospitality sector. In India, the tagline for tourism is Incredible India. So how do you see tourism, hotel, restaurant, the entire culture, the tourism sector, the hospitality sector post-COVID?
So I think, first of all, I don't think I can give you a very, very qualified answer. All I can say is I do not believe that it will suffer as badly as we think it will. And I'll give you my reason. I think it's basic human nature, right? I think we have we have been cooped up now for 3 or 4 months. I've spoken to many friends across the globe, and people can't wait to go on vacation. People can't wait to go out. So
Yes.
I do not see the hospitality sector are suffering massively, just given basic human nature. You know, we love company. We want to be out.
Enough of Zoom meetings during the lockdown. Maybe Zoom will continue, but like Steve says, it's a basic human nature to interact physically. I'm sure teachers across the globe are wanting to see their lovely students in person, and everybody, businesses also. And I think when we will return back to businesses, the new normal will put a big question. What is it that you would like to take to the life post-COVID? Maybe consciously adopting a minimalist lifestyle, we will voluntarily give away the excess baggages of materialism that we were soaked into, and perhaps just be very light, recognizing that humanity, after all, has to be at the highest pedestal. And while a lot of countries, including America, have talked about protectionism, maybe in post-COVID world, multilateralism may be the new order of the day. Bear in mind, come 2022, for the first time, India will be a proud host of G20. This time, of course, in June, G20 summit was a virtual summit. And in 2022, India through ICI will also be hosting World Congress of Accountants. I think this is the time for the professionals, the entire world of professionals, anyone with a professional outlook, to just take a deep breath, make sure that the self is in full control, and come out of the gloom that may appear at that first superficial face, as Navdeep says, peel the onion to find more opportunities. And one very good message that has come from one of our audiences, Girish Chandra, and he says, perhaps the bottom line from here would be a triple bottom line: people, profit, planet. Navdeep, people, profit, planet, post COVID-19.
I love it. I think it's I'm so glad Girish has included people in there, right?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I think if we lose focus on human capital, neither the planet nor the profits will survive.
This is the slide where we like to showcase the 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals. The United Nations that came in the aftermath of World War II, formed in 1945, has come up with SDGs in 2015, 17 in all. And the idea is, how do we ensure that the entire world fulfills these goals? So SDG 1, no poverty. 2, zero hunger. 3, good health and well-being. 4th, quality education. 5th, gender equality. 6th, clean water and sanitation. 7th, affordable and clean energy. 8th, decent work and economic growth. 9th, industry, innovation and infrastructure. 10th, reduced inequalities. 11th, sustainable cities and communities. 12th, responsible consumption and production. When we talked about the minimalist lifestyle, it is SDG 12, responsible consumption. It will also be good for our life and health. 13, very important, climate change, climate action. A lot of people talked about biodefense, biomimicry, all these years. Perhaps the world did not take it that seriously, but with COVID, they will. Maybe with the climate action, we need to also wake up, because human beings are not the only life forms on this planet. Our life is very much integrated with other life forms, and therefore sustainability is very essential. SDG 14, life below water. So the ocean health also has to be a priority. 15th, life on land. Desertification has been a big challenge. So we have to ensure that maybe we could grow food through aquaponics, hydroponics, like we saw in the science fiction film Martian. These are innovative ideas where leadership has to now put more time and effort. SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. SDG 17, Partnerships for the Goals. Leadership post-COVID-19 has many opportunities for you. Since I told you that I have reserved the sweetest part for the last, get ready for the last slide. And I want to see a beaming smile across panelists, audiences. Thank you very much for this time and sweet interaction.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amit sir. Thank you very much, Navdeep sir. It was pleasure having you here. It was a very insightful session, I must say. Thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you. Pleasure is entirely ours.
So Gaurav sir, I'd like to request you to come on board and take it forward.
Thank you very much. We are highly obliged to have you with us. Your words of wisdom will work as a guide to us. Federation of Indian Professionals is thankful to you, sir, for your precious time. And you both have focused how can we create opportunities even after this COVID bad phase. This is the quality of leader, that we need to find opportunity in every difficulty. That is what a leader is. And Napoleon has rightly said, a leader is who can sell hope. And you had given us opportunities in the difficulties when we all are tied up. The only one question I want to ask both of you, as many of our participants are newly qualified chartered accountant, those who have recently qualified in November 19 only, those who have not joined a job yet, what's your message for them? How to start a job, how to start earning, and what should they do? I'm literally worried about them. They haven't started a job yet, and this lockdown phase is here. So what about them? Sir, please elaborate a message for them. How can they start their career? Yes, please.
Amit, you want to
Okay.
go?
Okay, so my take on that, Navdeep, is that a lot of people ask this question that are leaders born? My take is that more than the womb, leaders are born in crisis. This is a crisis situation. And therefore, when Navdeep says that millions of people are unemployed in a country like the States, one can only imagine the plight in a developing country like India. So to all those who have newly qualified, like Gauravji says, make sure that you nourish hope. Make sure that you are a forward-looking person. Make sure that you create new pathways. Uncertainty has to be embraced. It is very difficult for me, for Navdeep ji, Sadhana ji, Deepak ji, Rajan ji, Gaurav ji, everybody tuned in to give you any formula to say that, okay, do this and tomorrow you will have an employer knocking at your doors. Perhaps that will only be too optimistic an answer. But I refuse to believe that opportunities have died. Maybe there are newer opportunities. If I were you, I would explore them. You have nothing to lose. What is very important for you to ensure that you are leading your life well is that you have a discipline in life. Make sure that you get up early, have a daily routine, get ready, take a bath, dress up, read, do networking, attend webinars. The Federation of Professionals and others are very kind enough to offer free resources. Be part of it. Improve your communication skills. Hindi ho, अंग्रेजी हो, भाषा पर पकड़ लेकर आएं, उसकी अभिव्यक्ति करें, ऑनलाइन सीरीज जाके देखें. आप कुछ भी करें, लेकिन ये सुनिश्चित करें कि आपकी एक नियमित दिनचर्या हो. कोशिश करें निराशा को आसपास ना भटकने दें, लेकिन फिर भी क्योंकि मानवीय व्यवहार है और अगर कभी निराश हो जाएं तो फोन उठाइए, फोन घुमाइए. लॉकडाउन है, बाहर नहीं जा सकते, लेकिन मन की बात दूसरों से तो कर सकते हैं और इसमें फर्क बहुत पड़ता है. अच्छे से अच्छा लीडर कितने भी जगह बैठा हो, उसे भी कभी कभी हताशा हो जाती है. तो आप यदि अभी हमारी बात सुन रहे हैं और आपको लगता है कि अभी तो पास हुए थे, लड्डू का दौर अभी समाप्त भी नहीं हुआ था कि सीए से बेरोजगार सीए हो गए, तो क्या हुआ? ये phases हैं. This is life. And I would only encourage my young chartered accountants to please, take crisis in your stride. And please understand, you've been accountants क्या financial statements एक बार में बन जाती हैं? Accounting is a process. A business transaction happens that leads to a voucher. Then you do the journal entry that transforms into a ledger. You summarize into a trial balance. Then you have the financial reporting. So if you are at a voucher stage, salute you, because voucher is the basis of financial reporting. One fine day when we'll be doing this webinar, maybe another year from now, when Gaurav ji and Sadhna ji are courteous enough to have another round of discussion, who knows, somebody who's a Beruzgar chartered accountant today may have Federation to thank. Let's see, now I have done this new business where I have brought hope not only to my own family, but I have also, as a leader, ensured economic activity for a few more households. So as an eternal optimist, I don't have any magical formula, but stay core values, and I'm sure something will come up. Navdeep, your thoughts?
So I have three thoughts again, based on my experience. I would say number one, in these crises, find ways to stay relevant. And that relevance could be, and being relevant means being able to create value, become useful. And that might be getting involved in volunteering, getting involved in being an apprentice, getting involved in an internship, even if it is unpaid. The key is coming out of this crisis in a way that you are relevant. Relevance is the most important thing for a professional. Number one. Number two, I would focus on, through my experience in life, I think if somebody asks me what is the one skill I have learned, and that would be communicating with confidence. Unfortunately, our education system, and I'm not talking about just India, but globally, it does not prepare us for that. So find ways to learn how to communicate with confidence. That communicating with confidence is 50% of the challenge. The third thing I would ask you to do is learn the role of technology. Technology, we've just seen with COVID, it is going to change the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we consume, and the way we live. Learn technology. And I realize most of you are chartered accountants and very financially savvy, but I believe technology will play an increasingly important role in that as well. So those would be my three practical tips. Number one, stay relevant. Number two, learn how to communicate with confidence. And number three, technology.